Welcome to Spelling Made Easy. My name is Gerald Hughes. I'm the director of the Neuro-Linguistic Learning Center here in California. For the past 6 years, we've been helping children, teens, and adults in overcoming a variety of learning challenges. The program you're working on right now is Spelling Made Easy. The goal of this program is to provide you with the student with some very simple recipes and techniques that are going to make the process of memorizing spelling and vocabulary words easier, faster, and hopefully even a little bit more fun. We're going to start with some basic concepts about what learning is and learning styles. We're going to look at spelling as both perception and process in order to facilitate this process. We're going to give you a couple of exercises for reducing stress and increasing focus. For the other kids, we're going to talk about we're going to give you an exercise for helping master the alphabet. Something simple to help you learn those letters in an easy, fast way. We're going to introduce what we think is a very powerful but easy to learn process, a step-by-step process for quickly and easily memorizing spelling and vocabulary words. And finally, for those visual thinkers, folks that might have dyslexia, ADD, autism, we're going to introduce something that we consider the missing ingredient in most reading and spelling programs that you may find today. So with that, let's get started, and we're going to look at spelling as perception and process, and we're going to take a look at learning styles. So if you look at this chart here, this little diagram, you'll see that there are 4 basic learning styles. And we have another program that's just on learning styles and personality. And we're not going to go into a lot of detail right here. We're going to save this conversation for this other program. But suffice to say that there are 4 basic learning styles that run this kind of spectrum from more of a logic reason to a more of a feeling or kinesthetic way of processing information. And conversely, a strategy or a learning style that runs from more of an auditory way of processing information to a more visual spatial way of processing information. And that's what creates these 4 basic quadrants: choleric, sanguine, melancholic, and phlegmatic. Or if you're familiar with, let's say, the characters in Winnie the Pooh, you've got your rabbit, more independent, kind of take control, a little high-strung. You've got Tigger, who is bouncing around and very social. You've got Eeyore, that tends to be more internal in the way he sees and experiences the world. And finally, the phlegmatic Winnie the Pooh, who is very thoughtful and very kind of pragmatic in the way he experiences the world, perceives the world. So the one thing I do want to point out is that you'll notice that folks that tend to process information very, very visually, very visual spatially, dynamic thinkers, outside the box thinkers, they are the ones that frequently may have trouble in the classroom and may struggle with the traditional methods for reading, writing, and even spelling. So that's what we're going to start with. Everybody can benefit from this program, but I think the visual spatial learners, thinkers, are going to probably find that they benefit more if they've traditionally struggled with more of a phonics-based approach to spelling. There's a very important phenomenon called synesthesia. Synesthesia is a union of senses. It's like seeing and feeling something at the same time, or hearing and feeling something at the same time. There's a great book called The Man Who Tasted Shapes. And the reason synesthesia is important is because something we've learned is that knowing whether an answer or whether information is correct or not is not based on how it looks or sounds. It's actually based on how it feels. And in these learning styles, there are some folks that tend to successfully rely on more of an auditory kinesthetic synesthesia. In other words, they hear the information and it feels correct or it feels incorrect. And there are others who see the information, imagine the information, and it feels correct or feels incorrect. And as you can imagine, this phenomenon of synesthesia is very, very important when it comes to taking tests, because without that feeling, that sense of knowing, that sense of recognition, you're really just guessing on tests. So we want to make sure that each individual walk away with this feeling of knowing, this feeling of correct or incorrect. If we look at the old traditional way of spelling, this is the way most of us were taught back in the second grade or first grade. We begin by sounding out the word piece by piece. And then, as we sound it out, we visually construct the word piece by piece. And for the most part, we have a set of rules by which a certain sound is given a certain letter or combination of letters. Again, very important, we check that construct for a feeling of familiarity. We repeat this process maybe 2, 3, 4 times as we go through the word. We break the word down into letters or syllables, and then hopefully at the end we have this, we reassemble the entire thing and we come up with a word that feels familiar. And for a lot of kids, this works pretty well. This is the way we're traditionally taught, and I think we're pretty much all familiar with this. If this works for you, you're probably not looking at this program because you're doing pretty well in school. A very different process is a visual spelling process. And again, this is going to work really well for folks that are more visual thinkers, more nonlinear, outside-the-box thinkers. And simply what we do is we're going to divide the word up into 1 or 2 or 3 pieces for the moment. We're going to color code them, because we want this information to go in the visual part of the brain, not the auditory, verbal part of the brain. Ideally, we're going to take this card, we're going to hold it up to the student, up to the left. And the reason for that is because our visual memory is generally looking up to the left. For a few folks, it's looking up to the right, but for most of us, about 97%, it's looking up to the left. With our eyes open, we want to look at the card, repeat it a couple of times, spell the red, spell the blue. Again, I'm just walking through this really briefly because this is a short version of the process. And the funny thing is, very often when you take a picture of the word, you will be able to see the word both forwards and backwards, as you would a picture of your house or a picture of your car. There's no one dimension to how you can imagine your car. And the last thing, what we're hoping for is that visual kinesthetic synesthesia. We want to feel the process. We want to feel that this word looks correctly. So we're gonna visually recall this word as one thing, as a picture, and feel that it's correct or incorrect. This process will work for anyone, but it's going to be particularly effective for those visual spatial thinkers. Now, in order to do this, we want to be in a mental state that is relatively relaxed and focused, because we're going to be relying on those images in our brain, those 32 images per second, and we need to get those images in something of an order, something of a relaxed, focused, kind of like a movie. So very, very simply, we're going to take this exercise when we sit down to learn or spell or read or memorize or even take a test. It'll work anytime. And just sitting comfortably in a chair, we're going to focus on a spot on the wall. This spot could be a little dot, it could be a thumbtack, it could be anything. A dot, maybe a half an inch to an inch in diameter. We want the spot to be above eye level, and we're going to hold our focus on this spot for about 20 to 30 slow breaths, or about 1 minute. As we do this, we want to expand our awareness all the way out to the peripheral, all the way out to the ends of our vision, the scope of our vision, and we're going to maintain our focus on the spot while we expand our awareness. And the great thing about this is very quickly we should notice that we're becoming slightly more relaxed and more focused. From the very beginning, we're going to notice, the first thing you'll notice is that you're able to maintain your focus without looking at what you see in your peripheral or what you hear in the peripheral. So we're ignoring everything around us, we're aware of everything around us, but we're maintaining our focus on this spot. So this is a great little exercise. And after about a minute, what we want to do is just close our eyes and looking slightly up to the left, just the way we're going to do with that spelling strategy, we're going to visualize a shiny red apple with green leaves. And what we want to do is hold that image steady. Hold it steady and visualize it for 30 seconds. Shiny red apple with green leaves. Hold it steady. And now, just for fun, underneath the image of the apple, we're going to add the word apple, maybe in blue letters. A-P-P-L-E. Then we're going to hold the image of the apple and the word apple together for about 30 seconds. So we're going to see what the meaning of the word, the thing itself, and the word perhaps underneath the thing. So the apple's on top, the word apple's on the bottom, and it's green and red and blue and colorful. And we're going to hold that for about 30 seconds. And ideally we're going to do this 2 times a day. Or before we sit down to read, write, homework, take a test. This is a great, very fast way to, and an easy way to get our mind ready to receive and store information more effectively. It may sound simple, but it's very powerful. Very powerful. And I encourage you to try this out. Try it for a couple of weeks, once or twice a day, and see if it doesn't start making a big difference in your learning, in your ability to focus and relax and focus and on what it is you're learning in that moment. The next exercise, we call these lazy 8s. And this is a great little left brain, right brain exercise. We do a lot of these. We We do some crosswalks with the student walking back and forth, touching their right hand to their left knee and their left hand to their right knee, and walking forwards and walking backwards. For our older kids, we often teach juggling and some other more advanced exercises. But this is a great one because the student can just sit comfortably in a chair with the adult or the coach so that they're just a little off to the side, not directly in the student's line of sight. And you're going to extend your hand with your index finger extended to a point in space about 16 inches from the child's face, pretty much in front of their nose. And now if you can imagine a box about 16 to 18 inches wide, about 8 or 9 inches high, we're going to draw the infinity sign, or a sideways 8, a figure 8 on its side. We call them lazy 8s. And the object of this simple exercise is that the student is going to relax with his head steady and track your fingers back and forth, around and around with his eyes. We're going to do this for about 30 seconds, then reverse the direction and do the lazy 8s in the opposite direction. Now, if you're struggling with the words moving on the page, or you have trouble keeping your place, if you tend to lose your place a lot, we'd actually recommend you do this about 3 times a day. If you're just looking to improve that connection between the left and right hemispheres, and just get your brain in a really good space for memorizing and recalling information, let's say twice a day. Maybe after you do your learning state, or before you do your learning state, you could sit down and do a few lazy 8s. Again, try it for a couple of weeks. I think you'll really start to feel the benefits of these simple but powerful exercises. So right now we're going to look at mastering the alphabet. And here is the simplest, fastest way we know of to master the alphabet for those kids that are around 6, maybe 5 or 6, 7 years old. If a student is having trouble seeing the letters, when we do this exercise later, if you hold that card up and the student closes his eyes and just really has trouble seeing the letters, if they mix up the letters with their eyes closed, you may want to go back, regardless of the age of the student, go back and actually have them make the alphabet out of clay a few times. I think you might find it helpful. It doesn't take long, it's a couple of times, and you just carefully, piece by piece, build those letters. And you're building them with your hands, kinesthetically. Your brain is processing them actually as 3-dimensional information as well as 2-dimensional information. And you can see, when you see it, feel it, and touch it, that D or that B is not a B when it's upside down. It's different. It's not a B when it's backwards, particularly in the lowercase letters. So you can see from the pictures here that we've had students start at all different levels. Some students, if you notice, they may have trouble making those diagonal lines in the letters. They look more like blocks. This is a student that may benefit from those lazy 8 exercises. So right now, if you have a student who's new at the alphabet, have some fun. Make some letters out of clay. Make a few simple words out of clay or Play-Doh, and have some fun. Stay away from criticism. This is not about making kids wrong. We want to build encouragement and confidence. If anything, what I do is I ask the student to look at their letter and then the letter on the sheet there that I printed out in an inch and a half high, and I asked the student to compare them. Tell me what's the same between their letter and the printed letter, and what's the difference? Do they notice anything that's different? And the student will almost always self-correct, especially if you do this a couple of times. So that's it. That's our very simple strategy right here for mastering the alphabet.